13 greatest hitters in baseball history. From a man who used hot dogs and beer to enhance his performance to a few guys who juiced up to help them achieve their lofty stats, here's the 13 greatest hitters in baseball history. Number 13, Alex Rodriguez. One of two players on this list to play during the steroid era, Alex Rodriguez admitted his use of performance-enhancing drugs, something that Barry Bonds, who's become the face of the era, has yet to do. A-Rod was rarely a fan favorite in his 22-year career despite hitting the most career Grand Slams of all time. His production and proficiency with a bat can't be argued. Though he has the lowest career batting average on this list, he has also accumulated 3,000 hits and 696 home runs in his career. That combination of at least 600 home runs and 3,000 hits has only been achieved by Rodriguez, Willie Mays, and Hank Aaron.
Number 12,
Barry Bonds. Towards the end of his career, Barry Bonds became one of the most divisive figures not only in baseball but in all of sports. People had a hard time stomaching his meteoric rise up the record books as he approached the sacred 755 home run mark held by the beloved Hank Aaron. His detractors, and there are plenty, look at his unheard of spike in numbers as he aged and blamed it on his blatant steroid use. His biceps seemed to swell to Hulk size overnight after all. But before Barry Bonds seemed to start taking steroids, he was still one of the game's best hitters. He hit for power, usually hovering around 40 home runs, and was considered one of the game's best all-around players. Later in his career, things got ridiculous. He was feared to the point that teams would intentionally walk him with the bases loaded, something that hadn't been done before and hasn't been done since. He hit 73 home runs in 2001, which was actually the only year in his career he would belt over 50. Like A-Rod, Barry Bonds continues to be left out of the Hall of Fame based on his association with performance-enhancing drugs.
Number 11,
Mickey Mantle. Simply everything you could ever want in a baseball player, Mickey Mantle swung from both sides of the plate, making him that much more effective. He played the game with toughness and a reckless abandon that endeared him to droves of teammates and fans. Mantle spent his entire 18-year career patrolling center field and later on first base for the New York Yankees, piling up 3 MVPs and helping the Bronx Bombers win 7 championships. Though his and Roger Maris's stellar 1961 seasons are most widely remembered, he really had his career year a half-decade earlier. In 1956, he led the league with a .353 average, 52 home runs, and 130 RBIs, earning him a triple crown in one of the finest years of all time.
Number 10,
Honus Wagner. For sure a top 3 dead ball era batter, Honus Wagner batted .299 in 1898, his second season. He wouldn't dip below the 300 mark again until 1914, when he was 40 years old. Even in the dead ball era, he stood out as one of the game's best hitters along with Ty Cobb. He spent almost his entire career with the Pittsburgh Pirates, leading them to 2 World Series appearances. The first, in 1903, was one of the low points of Wagner's career. He would bat .222 and his team would lose 5-3 against Boston. The performance, which was terrible by his lofty standards, would haunt him for years until his second World Series appearance in 1909. Wagner outdueled the up-and-coming Ty Cobb in the series, batting .331 to Cobb's .231, and leading his team to their first championship.
Number 9,
Pete Rose. The only member of this list not to be accepted into the Hall of Fame for reasons other than steroids, Pete Rose has been trying to get into Cooperstown ever since he was banned from baseball for gambling as a manager of the Cincinnati Reds in 1989. Had this infamous chain of events not occurred, there's absolutely no doubt that he would have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. You can begin and end the argument with the number 4,256, which is the number of hits Rose acquired throughout his 24-year career. This puts Rose, a switch hitter, on top of the all-time hits list.
Number 8,
Willie Mays. Considered by many the best all-around player to ever play the game, Willie Mays was celebrated and revered throughout his career and beyond it. He captivated fans with his legendary snags in center field. His over-the-shoulder catch in the 1954 World Series endears as one of the most famous plays in the sport's history. His world-class defense was matched and perhaps even exceeded by his exceptional skills at the plate. The Say-Hey Kid dominated National League pitching as a member of the New York Giants. From 1954 to 1964, he only fell short of averaging 300 twice, and hit at least 29 home runs every single season.
Number 7,
Rogers Hornsby. Rogers Hornsby played through and out of the dead ball era. He started his career as most players of his time did, hitting strictly for average. He never eclipsed 10 home runs in his first 5 full years. Then, his bat came alive. He hit 21 home runs in 1921, followed by 42 the next season. That same year, he hit .401, making him the only player to hit 40 home runs and bat over 400 in a season. He never smoked or drank, but also had a reputation as someone who was difficult to get along with. Reportedly, he wasn't well liked by fellow players.
Number 6,
Ty Cobb. Ty Cobb became the face of baseball in the days before Babe Ruth came along. Those early days in Major League Baseball had become known as the dead ball era. Players in the early 1900s hit for average and to get on base, rarely even thinking about hitting a ball out of the park. No one played this style better than Ty Cobb. His 24-year career started in 1905, and he managed to hit over 400 in each of 3 different seasons, including a .420 mark in 1911. His .367 lifetime batting average is tops all time. He was also a wizard on the base paths, gathering nearly 900 stolen bases over his career, including 96 in 1915. Though his feats on the field can't be disputed, they are somewhat overshadowed by the reputation, whether deserved or not, he had off the field. Many saw him as an extremely violent, racist man, though his admirers claim that his views on race mellowed and evolved after his retirement from baseball.
Number 5.
Stan Musial. Today, the St. Louis Cardinals are a powerhouse franchise in Major League Baseball that are a contender to win the championship nearly every year. A big reason why is Stan the Man Musial. He came up as a pitcher before his manager, Dickie Kerr, suggested he turn to hitting. In his first year as the Cardinals' everyday left fielder in 1942, he would hit .315, an excellent mark, but for Musial it was only the beginning. Over the next 11 seasons, he would only bat under .320 one more time. In his career, he would win 3 MVP awards and be a model of consistency. He recorded 3,630 hits, 1,815 at home, and 1,815 on the road.
Number 4.
Lou Gehrig. His farewell speech after being diagnosed with ALS on July 4, 1939 is one of the most famous speeches in history. Everyone remembers his line, "Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth." Tragically, the Iron Horse would pass away less than 2 years later from the malady. His stellar 17-year career prior to the diagnosis made him a legend. He, along with Babe Ruth, assembled the meat of Murderers Row, the nickname given to the Yankees' incredibly potent offenses of the late 20s. Despite playing alongside the Babe, Gehrig managed to rack up 3 seasons where he was tops in the league in home runs. He also won 2 MVP awards. He hit over 170 RBIs a ridiculous 3 times, including 185 in 1931.
Number 3.
Hank Aaron. While Barry Bonds had a sudden surge of artificial power late in his career to capture the home run record, Hank Aaron's path to the all-time home run crown was steady and consistent. His highest single-season home run total was 47, followed by 44, a total he would land on in 4 seasons scattered throughout his 23-year career. While he lost the home run title to Barry Bonds, he still holds the record for most extra base hits and total bases. Big Papi and Aaron met up in late 2016 after David Ortiz won an award bearing Aaron's name. Ortiz was a great hitter in his own right, though not nearly good enough to crack this list.
Number 2.
Ted Williams. Williams wanted to walk down the street and have people say of him, "There goes the greatest hitter who ever lived." The quote shows the confidence, sometimes bordering on arrogance, of Ted Williams. It's also a statement that many argue to be true. His smooth, left-handed swing is, along with Ken Griffey Jr.'s, one of the best looking to ever be seen. Raised in San Diego, Williams joined the Red Sox in 1939 and immediately became one of the game's premier players. In 1941, he posted a .406 batting average, making him the last hitter to hit over 400 in a season. His surly, often unapproachable demeanor with the media likely cost him accolades, as he only won 1 MVP award, though looking back, it could be argued that he should have won at least 2 more. Perhaps no hitter in baseball history has combined average and power with more success than the splendid Splinter. Even Ty Cobb thought that Williams would break his all-time batting average mark of .363. Many say he would have had he pulled the ball more against the defensive shifts put in place exclusively for his sake. So who did we miss? Anyone mad we didn't include current players like Albert Pujols or Miguel Cabrera? Does someone on here not belong? Let us know in the comments section, and thanks for watching.
Number 1.
Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth was a gargantuan figure in the 1920s and changed the way the game of baseball is played for all time. His major league career spanned 22 years and started on the mound with the Boston Red Sox. He was a great pitcher and won 67% of his games during the last half of the 1910s. He was traded to the Yankees in 1920 and would begin a string of dominance as a hitter that would last over a decade. He popularized the home run and hit deep flies the likes of which had never been seen before. His stats speak for themselves, but what's hard to grasp was the effect his larger-than-life personality had not only on Major League Baseball, but on the entire United States. He became a superstar known as much for his fun-loving nature off the field as he was for his remarkable performances on it. He boozed and ate foods like hot dogs and burgers in excess, though it didn't seem to affect his play until later in his career. Sent to an orphanage as a child, Ruth had an affinity for children, especially orphans.